I don't know about the rest of the state, but in the city of Mesa, is there any way of passing a law that would make businesses their signage in English only?
Well, you touched a tender spot with me, but let me tell you the issue very simply. Government, and we passed, and again, same with those in 06, when you passed those 4 initiatives they talked about by 75%. One of them was making English the official language, Prop 103, that passed by 72%. We thought that's what we did. I wrote that. I thought that's what we did. The only exceptions in there were for public safety, and well, not get ahead of myself, for government not to do that. Private sector, I don't want to get government so powerful that I start telling you what you can and can't do. You know, as long as you're not breaking the law. And so, you know, and because we have folks in this country that are illegally, that may struggle with English, I understand that. I wish, you know, in the old days, it reminds me of 1907 when Teddy Roosevelt stood on the building and talked to the masses of folks, and he made it very clear. He said, when you come to America, you come, it's one language, one culture, one American. You profess to be anything else, you're not an American. I agree with bilingual. I think it's a great thing, but you're right. If you're an American, you ought to become an American. And we ought not to encourage people. I mean, if you want to do it in your own home, teacher, I think that's wonderful. I have no problem with that. But you're right, I do struggle with that. But again, as a constitutional issue, I really struggle with the power of government would step on your First Amendment rights, and part of that is that. The government has an obligation, I believe, not to spend your tax dollars to do things. And I don't like it when I have to push one to get English. I mean, it's America, and I agree with you. And every country in the world that has become multicultural and multilingual has destroyed itself from within. It's a natural civil war within when you do that. So just good sense would tell you that stuff, you know, we ought to be very cautious and that. Makes you a unified nation, and that's what we ought to be celebrating, is unity, not diversity, unity. We're Americans. We believe in the values of America. We believe in the freedom that America gives. We believe in free market concepts. We believe that government ought to be very limited, and the jobs ought to be created in the private sector, in the free market. And, you know, it's kind of America's about in my opinion. Okay. Sure.
You mentioned you were putting together a jobs package. What exactly, in the last year in the budget, it was kind of a battle with the governor trying to get a decent budget passed. And what was passed was probably not what everybody really wanted, but it got passed. What are you guys doing this coming year to try and entice more jobs into the state?
Actually, what got passed last year, and I take great pride in the budget was passed. This is the first time in years that we passed a constitutionally balanced budget. A constitutionally balanced budget. We didn't continue to kick the can down the road and incur debt. You know, and we have debt we've got to pay off, and now we have a debt reduction program we'll work on. But we passed, not just working on it, we're past on it. One of the things that Senator Biggs and myself are working on with the NFIB, the largest small business group, is send to the ballot if we have to, the elimination of the personal business property tax. You pay taxes on lots of stuff. You shouldn't have to pay taxes on equipment to promote, you know, to grow your business. It's a double taxation issue, and it's wrong. We intend to eliminate it. We eliminated part of it this last year. Reduced it by 10%, reduced corporate tax by 30%. Again, folks, you guys all know that corporations don't pay taxes. You do. Everything is passed on to consumers. It's just like the cost of regulation. I read a report that was commissioned by the NFIB on the national level out of Washington, D.C. You pay over $1 trillion a year in the cost of regulation. The cost of businesses to do business because of government regulation. Wow, we're out of control. We don't run government well, but yet we want to tell people how to run their business. It takes you months to open your doors when you start a business in a city such as Mesa. It's wrong. I mean, we've got to, you know, like Ronald Reagan said, you know, in these times of crisis, government is not the solution. It is the problem. We've got to figure out how to get government out of the way and let the private sector go the way it should. And we're working on that very aggressively. We have a panel put together to look at regulatory schemes to reduce the burden of regulation. I've got business people that I meet with almost on a daily basis. A new steel company out here by the GM Proving Grounds. It took him 3 times the timetable to open his doors as it did in Texas. So we know we still have a lot of work to do. And yet, he has fees. I mean, not only do we have open tax. We have all these the open tax. We have all these embedded taxes called fees. He has to pay fees, $300,000 a year, just to load a truck with waste collection. Doesn't dump it in Arizona. Doesn't do anything except load it in his place. Yet, because government thinks it's their job, sometimes generate revenue. These fees are egregious. They're heavy, and it's a tax. You should go back to a tax. So those are things you have to do with every day. I mean, we just, have more government we can afford.
You talked about teachers and performance pay. How do you expect to implement that?
Good question. We've implemented a grading system that they admit is the best grading system that's based on progress, not where you where you end up without measuring how you came in. We've worked with the governor and John Huppenthal to make sure that we can start rewarding the teachers who have high academic success in the classroom and stop funding failing schools. We've got to recognize, and again, if you don't have accountability, if you don't have consequences, then things don't change. So we're on the process of developing that, working with, again, the superintendent of public instruction and the governor to develop a program. And part of that is getting more money from the administration to the classroom. You have a school district that spend less than half of their money in the classroom. We want to, so we're going to put some controls in the administrative costs where we force more money. At least 60% of those dollars must go to the classroom. Now, out of fairness, there may be a reason, some of the rural schools where they have administrative costs, busing over there. Well, if you can't achieve that, all we're asking for you is to give us a report, defend why you couldn't get that money to the classroom. There may be a reason, but at least transparency and accountability on the dollars that we send.
Do you do that by not giving them money, or giving them money by incentive, or?
Well, you give them money by incentive. You set up a performance system where you can actually measure the success of a teacher and a principal, again, with the results of the classroom. And we have a grading system in place to help them do that. So now it's taking it to the next step where we put into place the pay for performance package. Those details are being worked out. I'm very excited about it. I've been meeting with John Huppenthal and the governor on this for the last year, trying to figure out how we do this. Because again, everybody's got an idea. It's not always as easy to implement as you want. We want a system that's measurable and transparent and accountable, but rewarding to the right folks. And it'll be tough like anything, but I think we have a good process, and I think we'll get there. I'm very excited about getting there. And I think our teachers that are, again, good teachers ought to be rewarded for being good teachers. Those that achieve high success, academic success in the classroom, might be recognized for that success. And then others will achieve also. Then they're motivated to also achieve. But if everybody's paid the same no matter how you perform, then there's not a lot of incentive. I mean, you'll have those that always perform well, but there won't be a motivation for some to achieve that.
There was a thing on the news about the new grading scale they were doing for schools in Mesa. I think they said scored one of the lowest. Is that true, or how do they base that? Or
I haven't seen that. I can tell you Higley has scored very high. They're very proud of what they've done. Some of the schools performed very well, so I don't know overall how Mesa did, but I know Mesa has some excellent performing schools. Mesa has always been noted actually as one of the better school districts in the state. They tend to perform fairly well. But that's why you have to have the measurement right, because Mesa, like many other communities, has a demographic that's difficult. When you get a lot of transient students, non-English speaking students, well, you've got to make sure you recognize that so a teacher's not punished for having those kind of challenges. So you have to have a system that works well, so it's an honest reward measurement.
At the last election, we voted for 1% to increase the tax, right?
18%, 1 cent.
Yeah. So they say we'll have all school. Never hear nothing anymore. But I hear next day that Phoenix, Governor Bernardino, everybody got a raise. I mean, that's terrible.
And I don't know that those things are decided on a local basis, just like 301 money goes directly to the school, decided on a local basis.
I think he's talking about the food tax.
Yeah,
Well, no, I think he's talking about the 1 cent temporary tax the governor put on the ballot you passed. It's actually an 18% increase. It's 1 cent, but you went from a 5.6% sales tax to a 6.6%
Yeah, they
sales
said it was
tax,
a goal of
18%.
education, but they never did.
Well, it actually went something, but she did promise education, healthcare, and I think there was, and some public safety that was to go through. So it was divided into 3 areas. And it probably did help. I'll be very candid. I'm not a supporter of that tax. Wasn't then, not now. But it was a promise to be a temporary 3-year tax. And so it will end in 2014. Let me give you some good news with that. Not only do we, for the first time in years, get through and pass a constitutionally balanced budget, we just had what is called a Financial Advisory Council meeting today. It's all the top economists in the state that meet to go over, if you will, forecasting of revenues in the state of the state. And the good news is we're in the black. Our forecasts are above average for the first time in probably 5 or 6 years. So are we coming out of recession fast? No. Are we moving in the right direction? Yes. We're actually revenues are above forecast. And so we project that out to when the 1 cent, 18% tax increase goes away, 2014. And it's the farther out you go, the harder the economy is to project, because things change, and you can't predict all the little changes. But if things stay consistent, we probably still, in the 2014 comes, will have a small deficit. Could have no deficit at all. If another shoe drops that they're talking about in the economy and housing, it could be a huge deficit again. But I'm a firm believer we got a balanced budget without raising taxes, no gimmicks, no borrowing, no games this time. We'll deal with that. And if we don't, importantly, I always get concerned that people think I'm throwing rocks, but it's just trying to give you facts of this stuff. During the Napolitano days, the budget grew 12% a year, while inflation plus population grew 6% a year. None of you could run your business and outspend your revenues at twice that pace and expect to survive. It's a train wreck coming. Well, we knew that. So not all of Arizona's problems are as a result of the recession. Part of it is because we overspent. We spent money and grew revenue at a size that's not sustainable. So we've had to deal with that too. And so we've got a lot of room to cut back. We have a lot of waste in government. We have programs that probably ought to exist. It's a matter of setting priorities and deciding what we should be funding. And as from a constitutional perspective, 3 things come first. Protect your life, your liberty, and your property. Not give you stuff. Not redistribution of wealth. That's not me. And I'll tell you, just like access, we trimmed access a little bit. We had one of the richest access Medicaid, called Access here, Arizona Health Cost Containment System. And anyway, we had one of the richest Medicaid programs in the nation. In the nation. Spent millions of dollars on non-emergency transportation. That name alone ought to give you some concern. But it was huge. 1 out of 5 Arizonans run access. 1 out of 5.